obscure the living person who touched us many times.
A letter from someone, small town about 50 miles from Sioux City. Wrote, I have a need to share my feelings. I never met Tom in person, but he was always a very welcome guest in my home. He was my weather person. He was kind, calm, and presented the weather with that twinkle in the eye. I never panicked when he gave me weather warnings, just the facts, ma'am, and was able to stay calm and follow his advice. Those summer storms always scared me. My life seems to have always had tension and stress in it. I came home to a renewed appreciation of what I had in Tom being my weather person. You see, he had a calming effect on me at the end of the day after I dealt with the day's events and even the news of the day, which many times held sad news. This fellow Tom made a real wonderful difference in how I felt, and I will miss him very, very much.
But what you saw on the air from Tom Peterson was the genuine article. I don't believe that I've known somebody who was less pretentious or more common than Pete. But some of the qualities that have already been spoken about Tom's promptness. Every night on the news, the production people can vouch for this, Tom's idea was, why should I go out and sit and wait for the weather to come when I would rather just appear when it's time? Well, he was never out there more than 30 seconds before the weather. And I had my stock line. We're ready for the weather, but Tom's not ready for us. I had to use it twice. But he would come flowing in at about 30 seconds to air. And it's hard for me to describe this, like a ballerina flowing.
But I tell you, every single step of the way has been supported by a note or a phone call from my Uncle Tom saying, hang in there, keep at it, Tony. So I continue to keep at it. And now, unfortunately, the voice is no more.
That's the Mount Zion Church Choir. Tom's spirit touched all those he met and knew in our community. Today, the public who knew Tom and welcomed him into their homes each night said their last goodbyes, just only, though, to his physical presence. The memory of Tom Peterson won't be forgotten. Don Scott has more on the Siouxland community's outpouring of love and support.
Nearly everyone who knew Tom Peterson has a story to tell.
People were saying, don't always give a little more, and Tom was one who, I guess, felt strongly that way, and when he was offered a raise by the company, he actually turned it down. He said, I don't need it.
Gibbs says Tom wouldn't accept the money because he said there were others in society who needed that money more than he did. After the memorial service honoring Tom, crowds of friends, family, and even those who didn't know Tom poured out of Epley Auditorium honoring him and remembering the good he brought to the Siouxland community.
You didn't need to know him a long time before he made you feel like you were his best buddy. He had a way of finding whatever he had in common with you. My husband and I have a lot different political leanings from Tom's, and yet we got along so well with him.
That he was a people person, and he liked everybody no matter what their station in life was, and he was very supportive of anyone.
The community painted a picture of their best friend on a billboard and placed it along Gordon Drive.
Tom was always happy.
Life is a stage, and right now he's probably in heaven getting himself an Emmy right about now because he did a neat job, you know.
Like the license plate on his car, the community is certain Tom is now on Cloud 9. Dawn Scott, Major 9 News, Sioux City.
Tom had many close friends, but one Vietnamese man says he owes his life to Tom. Chow Nguyen lived and worked with Tom in the early 1970s during the Vietnam War when Tom was covering the war there. He says they were like brothers. As Lori Furlong reports, Tom sponsored Chow to become an American citizen and helped him start a new life in the States.
You work together?
Yeah, we work together, go out, and we help.
Chow Nguyen worked with Tom Peterson for more than a year during the Vietnam War. Tom was a correspondent for the American newspaper Stars and Stripes. Chow worked by Tom's side as his translator. He came back to Sioux City for Tom's memorial service. He said it's a time that he'll never forget.
Every day we have to go out to pick up a news, you know, even in the front line. Even we had the big fighting over there.
We sat down to talk this morning in Tom's house in what he called his Vietnam room. In it, Tom displayed the photos he took, furniture, and other items he brought back from Vietnam. Chow said everyone who met Tom in Vietnam remembered him and his fun-loving personality.
And my kids love him. Anybody over there only saw him, they know him, you know. Even they did say to them much, you know. Everybody like him.
Chow flew back for the service from Sacramento, California, where he now works at a jewelry store. Chow told Tom he wanted to move to the United States 11 years ago, so Tom sponsored him and put him up at his own house and helped him get acquainted with American life.
Come Sioux City right away. Then Tom have to pay for me the medical check-up and clothing, everything by himself because he is my sponsor.
Since then, every summer, Tom flew out to visit Chow in Sacramento. And this summer, they were planning on going back to Vietnam for 3 weeks to see Chow's family and visit the places they had been. Chow said Tom was like a brother to him and said he'll never forget the times they shared.
We get each other every year, you know. We're so happy. We go out, we go to Reno, we go to Lake Tahoe. Everybody like it.
Everybody loved him.
Yeah, love him.
Lori Furlong, Major 9 News, Sioux City.
In the midst of our community coping with the death of Tom, another tragedy has claimed the life of a man delivering flowers to today's memorial service. 71-year-old Joseph Jackson of Ottawa lost control of his van about 10 o'clock this morning and crashed onto the bank of the Big Sioux River. As Jackie Jarris reports, authorities are speculating on the cause of death.
Rescue workers moved frantically trying to get Joseph Jackson up the steep banks of the Big Sioux River. Jackson was driving flowers for Nelson Berger Funeral Home to Tom Peterson's memorial service. He lost control of his van on the Riverside on-ramp, drove over the curb, and flipped onto the edge of the river. Witnesses say Jackson was driving fast but didn't appear to slip on icy roads.
When I come along, a man stopped me on the road here. He said that there was a van came down, went over the edge. There's a funeral home procession with flowers. They sent one van on ahead, and this guy stayed. There was one person in the van, and they started CPRing him as soon as we got him out of his seat.
Paramedics on the scene say Jackson was in full cardiac arrest when they arrived and performed CPR before taking him to Marion Health Center. Director of Siouxland Health Services Steve Kilstrom says Jackson wasn't submerged in the water and had been wearing his seatbelt.
I couldn't see any visible external injuries at all. It was quite cold to touch. We're treating him as a cardiac arrest right now with the possible of traumatic injuries also.
Jackson was later pronounced dead at Marion Health Center, and doctors are speculating whether he died of natural causes or from internal injuries. Paramedics say it appears cardiac arrest was the cause of the accident. Jackie Jarris, Major 9 News, Sioux City.
An autopsy will be performed, and we here at the Major 9 offer our sympathies to Mr. Jackson's family. Still ahead tonight, Jeff Matthews says dangerous wind chills are expected to stay through the night.